Folks, welcome inside the Parisi Palace, high above 3773 East Broadway. This is the Jake Feinberg Show, coming on Power Talk. Thank you so much for making us part of your day today. And just coming off the road, Northern California, Central Coast, seeing music, healing through the vibration of music of my peers. And at the first concert on Monday night, very inclement weather in Santa Cruz, I ran into this indelible father and son tandem in the crowd, and we were talking. They noticed my appreciation and advocacy for the musicians and the music, and they told me, well, if you're here, you got to get hip to this cat who is just a beast of a player, a guy who puts pickups on his sitar and other various instruments, and I've been looking this cat up, and he's really somebody who understands the conversation within the music, not just traditional Indian music, but all different genres of music, and that he's interested in the conversation amongst people on the bandstand. And we weren't able to connect in person, but I thought it was absolutely necessary before the end of this calendar year to get him on the program. Ashwin, Batish, welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show.
Thank you, Jake. Pleasure being here. Thank you for discovering me, I guess, through a proxy over there. I think the gentleman you mentioned is a very good friend of the family, and he is he was going to school with my son up at a local school over here. So this is a good connection, I think.
It's Ayush, thank you so much for the connection. Ashwin, I wanted you to just talk about when you realized that your purpose in life was to be a healer through music.
That's an interesting question. I've never been had it put it that way. I think the goal for me was that music was very healing to myself, first of all. Study of music was not through a predetermined choice or anything like that. Music has been in my family for several generations, my father and then my uncle before that, and I think in my own case, my children also are now, very good musicians. So I think that vibration is what I found that it was the magic, the potion that kind of embedded me with this whole concept of music. And like I said, it wasn't really something that I made my career or anything like that. It was just we grew up with it, and thanks to my dad and my mom, they were both very, very fine musicians. Music was always in our house. My father always said, "Music and good food." Good music.
He's a very smart man. Did you grow up? Where did you grow up?
Okay, so several places. I was born in Bombay.
Wow.
And grew up, going to school over there. It's an English medium school, so we studied English and also Hindi because of the national language. And then I stayed a little bit in my relatives who were from Punjab and Delhi, so we would go frequent them often, taking the train journey through Bombay, towards the north. And it was a fantastic journey. I still remember the sleeper carriages and buying chai at the,
that's great. God, bring it back. I love this, man.
Boiled eggs, those are the things I remember. As a 6 or 7 year old with your dad, ordering stuff from the station, all I remember is these hot boiled eggs that would come through the window, and, we would pay the money. And it was just like, wow. Those precious times, because my father was always traveling, and he would take me until I joined school, of course. Curses to the school, because, I really enjoyed that life.
Well, no, I think it's... Can you talk... I remember interviewing the great saxophone player David Liebman, and he talked about taking his band at one time that had Badal Roy in the band. They would go to Calcutta. They'd go to very poor, it was actually very intense for him because there'd be these are very impoverished places, very poor, dead bodies were in the street. It was, can you talk about maybe, I guess when I meant healing, sometimes raising do you have a memory of playing music with your parents, or even seeing them play in a very despairing situation where they were raising the spirits of the people of that community?
Music is multifold, of course. We have different, what we call rasas, and despair and sadness is one of the ras. But more than that, I think what you are probably there's a couple of elements. We have the classical music of India and the folk music.
Yes.
And my father was well versed, and so was my mother, because they were, from the soil in the Punjab area. And of course, most of the music that I heard was in the spirit of joy, in the spirit of celebration, in the spirit of festivities. Because as a child, you don't really follow. We don't have a built-in, a mourning kind of a music. But I did hear my father talk to me about certain ragas that have they call it like rag soni, for instance, is sung especially when the person has died, and they sing this when they are going and taking the body to the funeral pyre. They will sing this rag, because it's a very mourning and also very soulful and very yearning, and those elements that you're mentioning are particular to this particular rag, and in Punjab, this is a very, very popular rag. Of course, there are also music that we heard that was very political, and there was music also that was, like I said, the festive music would be more like a dance music, where a certain festival like Diwali, which is the festival of lights, would have a certain song. My father sang it. It's on YouTube that I put up there.
Wow.
And then the dances, when you get married, then there is a special ritualistic song which celebrates life. And this life is called Garba, and it's from the Gujarat region. And the Garba is a dance which is a circular dance, and the light that's burning, and it's signified by a lamp with a little light that's burning. So the circle of the lamp signifies the womb, and the lamp is the life that's coming out of the womb.
Ashwin, Batish, already blowing my mind today. I mean, it's such an honor. I
Thank you.
When you say, so you go back to Pete Seeger, Tom Rush, some of these folk musicians of our time, they were singing about real issues of the people, what was happening, work songs. A lot of people would say today that rap music is modern day folk music, because as hard as it is in those ghettos, they're singing about real life, and they're singing about what's really happening on the streets. And when you say Indian folk music, did that music have vocals, and did it get political, or was it more acoustic-based, sort of jam music?
No. You are perfectly correct. Just like how we have message-oriented folk music. Folk music has always been a part of a very rich oral tradition in India, and I would say folk music started with when humans would have probably gained the awareness and the ability to go I can sing in tune. I don't know. But, even before then, I believe folk music is the language of the people. It's like encapsulated messages that have come to us from the past, and they keep maintaining the culture even today. You know what I'm saying?
Totally.
So, to me, folk music is very powerful. I think classical music, we seem to give all the value to how rich our classical tradition is in India or anywhere else in the world, to think about it. But if you look at it, classical music is really folk music, which has been dressed up, And so
but I see. So I mean, at 43, I mean, I always just want to go. If I go see a live show, I want to see people going for it, meaning playing beyond what they know. Maybe they make a mistake, maybe they flub a note, but everybody, like a school of fish or a flock of birds, they all go in the same direction. Is there, and there's clearly a divide in this in the Western musical world, between the classical musical musicians who are just predicated on taking instruction from a conductor, playing the same song in almost a formula trip kind of thing, versus guys that might have a classical background, but they choose to improvise. And I just wanted you to talk about, you clearly have the ability to play traditional Indian classical music, but is there a divide between the jammers and those cats that are more interested in, I don't know. I mean, to me, it's just like, I mean, there's something commendable about playing something perfectly or reading something directly off the paper. But it's just the healing power of music is when you know you have the ability to be a conduit for the music to come through you from the heavens. And I could tell when Ayush was talking to me that night, even though I haven't seen you play live, that you have that capacity. Is there a divide between, where do you come down on that, especially as it relates to your own homelands, classical music versus more the improvisational jam music?
Well, so the classical music is improvisational. First of all, we are improvising all the time. So if I'm going to go like if I play like that, I have my sitar in my hand, by the way.
I love it, dude. It sounds great.
So now, when you go like this, see how nice it is? If I just go, that's just a straight note. But if I go, then I'm putting feeling into this. If I slide it like this from a lower note to the upper note, see, all these are like emotional, you might say like emotional things. So improvisation is a part and parcel of music. And Indian music, not that it's not composed and everything. We do have, pre-composed music that people will learn and play. But this jam kind of thing where you go... All this, I did not compose it. I just played it, right?
Dude, that thing sounds like it's hooked right into the soundboard, man. No, I know, exactly. I mean, is it like in Indian, I should say, in traditional Indian classical music, is there a conductor or is that just something European-based?
Well, no, I think conductor is European-based, definitely. Indian music is, first of all, our ensembles are not as big, you see. Right. The role of a conductor came in when you had 50 people, and so somebody had to keep the whole thing together. In Indian music, we are very individualistic, so we have like one lead player and then one drummer and a couple of people that are playing like this drone that I played for you.
Oh, I love the tempo. I love the drone, yeah.
So this drone becomes you might say that's our little conductor over there. But really,
I love it.
All we're really doing is tuning in. Like if there's a rhythm cycle, like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. So the tha din, tha da din, tha din, tha da din, tha din, tha da din, tha din, tha da din. See? So the rhythm is what my mouth, I was saying through the vocalization. But so this is the whole orchestra, basically, where you have, that's why you see Ravi Shankar and you see Allah Rakha, playing on the tabla, and you see these two people can hold you mesmerized for hours.
Mesmerized.
Okay? So, this is our whole concept is very individualistic, and that's why the music flourishes in the way it does as far as the classical sense. Now, when you do put 2 people or 3 people together, there's that possibility also. We call it a jugalbandi.
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 Oh, man, that's what I want, yeah.
Yeah, so this is like participation of 2 or 3 strong improvisers and strong composers. Now, we don't necessarily sit there and practice away for like 10,000 hours and then come on stage. We usually do our homework at home. Everybody does this. You were mentioning about people who flub and stuff like that. I personally, I think, when you practice really well, the chances of flubbing become really low. I, as a musician, I can't sleep without putting my hand on my sitar and practicing. If somebody calls me for a concert, I agonize for like 3 months before I even set foot on the stage, so that I have the power to say everything I want to say in the best way possible. And yes, flubbing is a part of that thing, but I try to minimize that, So this is the goal over here is there's a term called riyaz, it's means practice. So, I'm very, and not just me, all musicians that are worth anything in India that are coming on stage, literally they show their mettle by the amount of practice they do. My father told me that if you practice 100% at home, all you need to do is 5% on a stage. So that's how much practice we have to do.
This is so beautiful. I just wanted, because you listen to, though I haven't had a chance to do it, but I would assume you listen to Sonny Rollins practice or some of these master jazz musicians from this country.
Can practice 24 hours a day. I mean, literally, this, I know.
But you know what it is? They're not practicing what they already know. They're playing beyond what they know. It sounds like a concert in some ways. And I just, like I wanted you to talk. Maybe you could talk about your mom and dad. How you just maybe sort of through osmosis. Because here's the thing: you used the term you agonize for 3 months. That means like you're in your thinking mind, but when you get on the stage, you have to access the spirit mind, so you're not in your head. And how did you learn to access the spirit mind? Did you see your parents? Because like you said, you practice at home 100%, and you don't really have to worry about it once you hit the bandstand. So how did you learn to access the spirit mind? I see a lot of my generation at 43 and younger. The musicians are playing from their head. They're not playing from their heart. And I just wanted you to talk about how you learned to sort of drop into your primordial gut.
That's a beautiful question. The thing that I have found is that awareness comes in time. Okay, when I was starting out, I was so much into what my father was teaching me, so much into the culture, so much into everything, but it was always my concentration was I would please him. I would know that if he goes da like this, I would play it like that. If he goes he would sing like this, I would play. Everything was concentrated. Everything that he sang, I had to play or sing. So my effort only came to the understanding level, and he always told me this, and he would tell me practice this, and I would practice and practice it. So it was more like a routine, just regurgitation. But eventually, he sat with me on stage for 15 years. This was not just a simple, like a fly-by-night operation.
No, obviously not.
We were running a restaurant. First of all, we came into America with literally no money. And so my father was invited to teach at the university. Whatever money he made and whatever money we could gather, some friends maybe loaned them something. My father invested in a little place where, they opened a restaurant. And so in the restaurant...
Let me just stop you right there. What was the university? This is so beautiful. What was the university and the restaurant?
Well, so it's the University of California in Santa Cruz.
Oh, beautiful.
And so they opened a restaurant over here in Santa Cruz, and I'm going back to the 70s, and it was called the Krishna Cafe. And at that time, the Hindu philosophy and the culture and everything with the Vietnam War winding down and everything was, very high, and especially in Santa Cruz, it was probably getting a huge...
It was over the top. Yeah, I can only imagine that.
Loved this stuff. So now there's McDonald's just a block away, and then my father opens and my mother, they open this place called the Krishna Cafe. So the story is kind of funny because they became so popular because they were from the heart. Like you said, the spirit was there. They didn't even think about anything. My father would bring his veena out and play music while people are dining.
Yes.
So here's what happened. To the right of us was, if you don't mind using these commercial ventures, but McDonald's is to the left and to the right is Straw Hat Pizza.
Oh, I love it.
And so my father's place is right in the middle. And so this is just a visual I'll give you.
Yeah.
The line that stretched out from the Krishna Cafe went all the way either towards the McDonald's or all the way towards the Straw Hat Pizza. That's how many people stand in line.
Dude, this is making my year. This is really healing, dude. This is because I really long for this stuff, man. Like I was born. That is. How old were you at that time?
Well, so I was about 20, 21, and this like I said, this goes back so far.
No, this is so ridiculous. You were absolutely. So your parents Bless them, man. And first of all, did they have the chops to cook, or did they have to bring in you must have had amazing food there.
You remember the first line I said, food and music.
Absolutely. Your dad can cook?
My dad can cook, and as did my mom. My mom was one of the best cooks in the world.
Oh, my Ashwin, you are blowing me away, dude. This is unreal, man.
And she wrote a cookbook also. So,
wow. Wow.
So,
how big was the Krishna Cafe? I mean, it's still. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I'm just going to say the Krishna Cafe lasted for 2 years because my father and my mother, they were so dedicatedly working. And, of course, my father was teaching at UCSC over here. That anyway, so that overwork happened. And, my father got ill. So we were in England, and we called them. We went back to England at that time. And then, after about a year of being there, everybody got really, and we had also, my father had applied for, immigration to U.S. So his papers came in, and he had forgotten about America. Then he saw these papers saying, "Mr. Batish, you are welcome to the United States anytime." And so my father was like, "Okay, pack my bags up."
Oh my God!
And boom, the whole family moves over here. So
can you? I mean, was he? He was so in his own world. He was so following the spirit. I mean, it's just the most. Okay, so I just want to back up for a minute here. Like, two cats that I'm very close with, and I love dearly. I wonder the first time around if you got hip to Ashish Khan or Arshad Syed. Arshad was at Sonoma State. He didn't know anybody. Zakir said, go to Sonoma State. He actually learned African congas with Babatunde Olatunji. And then Ashish was part of the band Shanti, which is right in that time that you were first here. Did you collaborate? Did you play in any bands the first time you guys were in Santa Cruz?
Well, I did. I played with Arshad. Now, they're both very good friends.
Oh, I love this. Is beautiful, man. God bless you both. I mean, bless you.
Yeah. Arshad and I go way back, as do Ashish and I. Ashish and I are also teaching at the same university. The same university I was mentioning, I'm now a teacher over there, and I teach Indian music.
Ashish is at Santa Cruz? I thought he was at Cal Arts or something.
He is, but he comes.
Yeah, he does it all.
Yeah. Once every year, he is invited to come and teach a class, and so we've been keeping in touch. And a wonderful musician, both of them excellent, beautiful musicians and people also. But I have not really played. My son has played with Ashish because he has taken some classes with him. He graduated from UCSC also. So, but yeah. Anyway,
when did you first connect with them, though? Did because they were in this? They were. I mean, that was some of the magical stuff of the time that I've chronicled so heavily. Is just the idea that Aluraka and Ravi trusted cats enough to let their sons go and sort of experience the milieu of what was Novato and the Bay Area, and it was. There were, and then the Ali Akbar Khan School was up there. Where were you at in that first trip before you went to England? Like, as far as music were you playing in a band? Did you know them then?
No, I didn't know them. I basically entered the States in 1973, and so at that point, like I said, my father's and my mother's restaurant was already operating, and that's my education. Was mostly with my father like I said, for 15 years, I learned from him. We sat in the restaurant and we had a stage. We played over there. And while we were doing all this, we would meet people like Ali Akbar Khan Sahib, Ashish's dad would come for a concert.
Oh my God, this is unbelievable. My God.
We have the Batish Institute of Music and Fine Arts. So we would run a school over here while he was teaching at UCSC. And after a point, he left UCSC, and we concentrated on our own school and producing works on teaching, like tabla, sitar, dilruba, and singing, and all that kind of stuff. So we had all these tutor videos that we started making and teaching our students over here. But while we were teaching and the restaurant was constantly operating, we had a lot of these artists would come and visit us. Like, Zakir was my good friend. He always came. His dad would come.
I knew this. I knew this is mind blowing, dude. Alu Raka was playing on the stage at the Krishna Cafe.
Oh, he's not playing at the Krishna Cafe, but Zakir was here. But his father, we would organize a concert in a larger hall because our place was not very big. But Zakir was always very good about bringing artists, and then I would hold a concert through the institute, and that's how we brought Indian music into the Santa Cruz area. But many times these artists would come, and his dad Allah Rakhaji was old friend of my father's, and he actually played in my father's movies, and my father sang in his movies.
Okay, so, I mean, let's just stop right there. That is So your dad.
Yeah.
Tell me your dad's name.
His name is Shiv Dayal Batish, and in the industry they know him as the initials SD Batish.
SD Batish.
Yeah.
So let's just go back. He was doing, when you were just a boy, he was in Bombay,
right,
doing studio work, doing soundtracks. Explain this man, because he's on the same level. He's same generation, same grace as Ali Akbar Khan, Alu Raka, Ravi Shankar.
Oh, absolutely. My father was one of the founders of the Bollywood Union. He started his career in 1932 in Delhi, in Punjab area, in Lahore, before the partition, you see. And so then he became a radio artist of All India Radio, and then he composed music as an assistant director under a very famous called Amarnath, Amarnath, Husan Lal Bhagatram. These are very famous families. They're related to us. And then he did song compositions for almost 100 movies, because he was one of the music directors. But at his core, he was a singer. You see, he was a singer that he sang hundreds and thousands of songs for movies, And so literally he was all over. I mean, I would go to concerts, I would go to his recording sessions. As a boy, I mean, I still remember getting patted on the head by, now I go like, wow, if I had only known who these people were.
Dude, it doesn't, dude, I mean, this is, so was there like this is a little early, I know you were very young, but, did he play, was there like a viable studio scene there? Like in Bombay, was like where he would go maybe do jingles or the set, like he said, he was an original soundtrack guy, but like where Alu Raka, like, cause like in LA for a long time, you had this huge studio scene and so many guys made incredible livings off of it in the 50s and 60s, which is where your dad was in India.
So India, the Bombay scene happened, after the partition, because we had a civil war over there since the Britishers left in 1947.
Right.
Really, the scene came alive. It was alive before then also, but as an independent country, in 1947, after that point, Bombay became the center. Before that, it was Lahore, which is now in Pakistan. So people lovingly call Lahore Lollywood and Bombay as Bollywood, so just so you know. So they always have this, affinity to call something towards the Hollywood, because this is where they believe that most of the commercial action was, as they say.
Sure.
But of course, the scene was there. I mean, the Bombay scene was heavily governed by HMV, His Master's Voice, now EMI, So all these records, everything. Sony is big now in India, but the scene was very heavy with HMV, and my father was the recording artist for HMV, and as such, he wrote songs for some of the top artists, including like Lata Mangeshkar, who is now in the Guinness Book of Records, as is her sister Asha Bhonsle, Muhammad Rafi. These are all cats that were the lead singers for all the Bollywood movies. Talat Mahmood. I can send you some of the.
I mean, this is like. I mean, you're making my day, making my year, man.
So glad to.
You know what it is like? Did he receive publishing? Was there a union? What I'm saying is, I know they came over here, and friends they came over here with no money. So did he? I don't. This is an abstract question, but I'm just curious because did he receive publishing for these now famous tunes that he wrote?
now I have to tell you something really interesting.
Yeah.
So no, I mean this is so when those days the contracts were signed as a one-off, so they basically paid you off with 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 rupees, and then they own everything.
It was a work for hire kind of thing.
Yeah, work for hire kind of thing. But most of these people died paupers. So now here's what happened. There's a very interesting thing because in India the copyright thing you brought up was tackled back in I think 2003 or something like that. I don't know. Barry Gibbs from the Bee Gees, I believe.
Yep.
He was instrumental in creating a copyright amendment. I believe this was to the Copyright Act of like 75 or something, where they finally ratified that thing, saying that you can actually take these old compositions and reassign the copyrights back to the original owners. And so it took almost 10 to 15 years for it to actually become a viable thing, but the courts passed it, and then today I think I can actually go in and file for it, except I'm so far away now, I have to hire lawyers and everything to do this. But most of the people that are in India should see some benefit out of this.
That is so this is talking to Ashwin Batish here on the Jake Feinberg Show, and when you came back from England, I mean, we were dealing with, there was still like a lot of Western music, and did you assimilate? What was the first band? Did you ever? I like to use the term. Maybe your children will eventually be part of this because in music today, it seems like it's the only way to actually make a living. Did you ever road dog it? Did you ever go on the road? Like, were you ever part of a band here in the States that you got in a van and you toured and you played a lot of upholstered sewers, but you didn't break away from your father, but you were no longer under his tutelage and you were really searching for your own sound?
Absolutely. So here's what happened. First of all, as a classical musician, I did many concerts, including the one I did several with Zakir and several with some other tabla players that would come and visit this area. And that was my classical music side, where I would take my sitar and have a tabla, and it's a traditional kind of a set. But while I was doing this stuff, a gentleman from one of my students, his name is David Harnish. He is a chair of university in San Diego now. But he invited me. One of his friends was a shakuhachi player from Japan.
Wow.
The name was John Neptune. Beautiful person. What a solid and soulful sound he has. So he said, Ashwin, how would you like to do a concert in this environment? And this was my first time, actually not my first time, but an opportunity where Zakir joined on the tabla and John came from Japan with the shakuhachi, and then my friend David, he was playing guitar, I was playing sitar, you see. And so we made a quartet, and this was really the first kind of a band kind of a feeling that I had.
I love. What was the name of the band? Did you guys ever come up with a name of the band?
It was just, we termed the concert a meeting of masters, but it wasn't really, the band wasn't named as such. We did like 3 shows in that particular capacity. But it was a good hit on my psyche, saying that, here's a possibility that I haven't really looked into. And, with Zakir playing tabla, it was just, I was always playing in that context. But to see things come about and play more than like the individualistic approach I was talking to you about.
Right.
Came like 3 solid players with a really killer drummer, and so it became, an aha moment in my mind. And so at the same time, I was also being invited to sit with jazz musicians by a friend of mine. His name was Randy Masters. He was a local jazz cat that was teaching at UCSC. And he would call me and say, Ashwin, just come and sit in my thing. Bring your tabla. Bring your sitar.
This is so beautiful.
And I would just take my stuff over there, and they would put a mic in front of me, and these guys are jamming away, soulful stuff happening, and everybody's dancing to their music. And then they would look at me, and I would play my sitar. And everybody was like, wow, this is so cool. So after that whole dance thing, everybody listened to my music and sat down and listened to me. And I was like, okay, everybody's dancing, and now everybody's sitting down. It was almost like
no, it's like a probably back in. I've talked to enough cats who who've been over in India, they sit in these ragas that last all night, and people pass out crackers and chai, and like there you are, just putting people into a meditative,
Exactly.
yogic state. It's after frenetic jazz. This guy Randy, is he still around, man? That's
Oh,
unbelievable.
yeah, he's still around. He's a good friend of mine. He's still around, in the area. And
And what was the
so,
club? What was the hip jazz club? The Catalyst or something? Where were you playing?
yeah, we would play everywhere. I mean, the Catalyst was one of them. I would play up at the San Francisco nightclubs and stuff like that. Wherever he would invite me.
Oh my God! Wait, did this is really important for people to hear, but a lot of my show is based on leadership and love, and I just wanted to talk about your father. And Ali Akbar Khan was an international star, and he could have chosen to tour the world and make millions of dollars and do that, and yet he chose to open a college in Marin County and give back and make sure that people were educated and that the music lived on. And I wanted you to just talk as best you can about, your father and Ali Akbar Khan, Ravi Shankar as well, about what it was about their selflessness. And maybe here's the point. I mean, what I gather is that what they did very seriously, but they didn't take themselves very seriously. There wasn't a lot of righteousness. I don't know if that's the right word. There wasn't a lot of self-righteousness. I just wanted you to talk about how cosmic they were, and kind of, because we sorely need that kind of leadership today. And I don't know how else, other than storytelling from people that experienced it, that we're going to actually be able to sort of turn people back on to this cosmic consciousness.
Yeah. No, I believe that music, to me, brings a lot of, the real reality of life to me. And, I don't see materialism as being the cosmic connection in life.
No. That's
exactly.
That's about as simply brilliantly put as I've ever heard in my life. Yeah, I don't think that brings cosmic joy.
Yeah, I think we definitely know that we are linked to a higher source. Let me put it that way. Mm-hmm. I think we know that things as we see them as physical things are here, and they are really it's kind of generated. You know what I mean? Like we generate something.
Mm-hmm.
So a car is a generated object. A house is a generated object. It's not something that's ordained. You see. So we look at life as sometimes people who are into materialism look at generated life. It's something that's not really ordained. You see, and I believe in ordained, and music is ordained. It's not generated. We generate it through synthesizers and everything, and maybe through programs and software. But the real soulful music is an ordained thing, and to get to it, we have to be submissive. We have to believe from our heart and our soul that, we are just a little conduit. You see, everything else is already existing. We are tuning in, And so that philosophy has taken me into a journey in life as being a musician. I call myself a musician, but I think it's really more of my search to be one with the metaphysical, to be one with a higher authority, I think. If I can put it that way. I mean, I know it sounds kind of mushy to a lot of people, but really...
No, I don't. I think it's... Can you just go a little bit deeper about... So you talk about like building actual things, like those are generated. But when you talk about ordained, people think about that in like theological terms, but can you talk about the being ordained and submissive to the music?
Yeah. So basically, music is pre-existing. We are literally seeing a group of tones that make us vibrate in a certain way, or we sympathize. In a sitar, if you notice, when I play a note, I mean, you can't see it, but if you were to, I'm going to hit the main note now, and you'll hear something underneath. So there are two layers of strings on a sitar. So when I hit the top note, I'll mute it, I'll kill it, but there's something ringing underneath it. And there's a set of wires called sympathetic wires. Those sympathetic wires are these underneath the sitar. So while I play, so when you hear all this reverberating background, those are sympathetic wires that are actually, I'm not even striking them. So the upper notes are making those lower ones reverberate, and
that's it. That's it. You just nailed it. I mean, that's some people would call that on the drums ghost notes. Where you it's just through the reverberation. You're not actually even hitting it. It's not generated.
Exactly. So now, if you take that whole philosophy, we are tuned in just like those sympathetic notes that are, that when we hear something nice, our soul says, aha. When we hear something bad, they go, boo. So we, so we know what's good. Why do we know what's good? You have to ask that question, you see? That's what I'm talking about. So when awareness and the concept of understanding is raised to the level where you start to not question it, but it's there, it's a pre-existing thing, it's an ordained thing. We are already focused into that thing. We don't have to go learn that thing. If you put something delicious on your tongue and it goes, hey, that's great. If you put something yucky, go, poo, throw it out. We are hardwired for what's good, as we are hardwired for what's bad, I'm sure.
Well, I just, the greed consciousness has reached an all-time high in this country, and I feel like going back to that time, that strong Hindu connection, the end of the Vietnam War, when you first came here, because you said it might sound mushy, and it's like, yeah. I get it. You know what? Because there are people out there, and there's a lot of, I just wonder in your mind, what's the best way to affect change and change people's hearts and minds so that they look at it and say, this is spirit and strength and absolute cosmic, this is important and it's not mushy. How is it through merely vibration and music, or how do you work with it? And also, I don't know how old your kids are, but I mean, do you feel like you're able to authentically give them a similar education that you received from your father?
Well, okay, so at the heart of all this, I hear everything you're saying,
yeah.
And I hear the frustrations, the world as we are right now. It kind of seems like it's falling apart, but in all this, I see everything through the eyes of a child. When a child sees something, they don't see the world falling apart. They don't see the world, and all this divisiveness, all the craziness.
Absolutely not. I did. My older daughter's kind of aware of it, but I'm with you, man. They don't see it like that.
But if we can keep that purity, what I'm trying to get at is I try in my own children to not have them lose that. I mean, okay, so with age and with experiences and everything, those other elements are going to creep in. It doesn't matter what. But we want to strengthen them right when they're young. We want to make it solid for them to know that there is another way, and you don't have to necessarily seek the worst in life, And so I think what we need to do is, in my belief, music, love, the ability to share our experiences, the ability to be forgiving. I think those are some of the qualities that we need to, teach, to make our children aware of. Of course, I think we are always looking at, as grown-ups, we lose that touch of the youth and the eyes of the children, the heart of the children.
Absolutely.
I seriously love my kids, and I really feel that that's what I've tried to bring to them. And every time they have problems, every time, I never close my doors. I always leave everything aside. Nothing is important in life than listening to them. So I think, and if we can do this to our children, and if we can keep that attitude even with grown-ups, not that grown-ups now 60 years old, 45 years, if they have a problem, sit down and listen to them. What is wrong with that? I mean, this is the way we sometimes we relegate children to being like 5, 6 years old. 40, 50-year-old people are also children.
Dude, I mean, so you say, it's so interesting because the late great Pat Martino just passed away, an amazing guitar player, and he talked about seeing things through the eyes of a child, and he was talking about really the first time he met Les Paul when he was like 9 or 10 years old, and there was that innocence. In your day-to-day spiritual practice, how do you align yourself so that you recognize that miracles take place all the time and you are open and still see things through the eyes of a child? In fact, the way you were describing it is kind of the way I try to deal with my girls. I try to keep an open dialogue with them, right. But I also get so much inspiration from them. Are you saying children are the future? Is that how we're going to work our way out of this? I mean, is that, and at the same time, is it the fact that we're all interconnected and that the world really isn't falling apart? I don't know. I really don't know.
Okay, so my belief is that when did the world have its act together?
Right.
The world is really, ever since we've seen we are really under high tension because of this whole ease of everything, the technology, everything is putting a stress on our system. And I think it's more a result of stress. And, if you look at the world, last 100, 150 years is where most of this high anxiety and stress has come forward into everybody's life, because it has given everybody a chance to be everything. And, the computer program is everything. I have one computer and it can literally do my graphics, it can do my video editing, it can do my sound recordings, I can do text editing, I can go visiting. What can't I do on a computer? So, so now I'm empowered. Now, but being empowered is not necessarily, because it keeps you too busy. Your mind is too busy with everything. The relaxation point is in there. And I think this is the role of people when they listen to music. Part of it is that they're looking for that out, from the stress factor that they come through. And your original talk of asking me about healing, I think that's where healing starts, where people take an out from their stressful environments and find an into a environment like music. When you hear... See, that's the thing. It's like a doorway into like de-stressing. And so I think music definitely has it. Even if it's like boom, ticka boom, ticka boom, ticka boom. Okay, people like that, fine, go for it. It's not like, why call it, I hate disco, I hate this. Don't hate anything, just let it be. Because music is everything, music is everywhere, and everybody can tune it at their own points of entry. It's all entry, you see, and we have to allow this entry without criticism, without feeling like it's wrong to do this or wrong to do that. No, whatever chills and takes your mind out of the de-stresses you, go for it. That's why I love all kinds of music. And in my Sitar Power series, the samples I sent you, I love mixing jazz. I love mixing classical. I'm crazy about country music. And I can't be a critique of everything. I can't be a critic of everything. I mean, I just go it in my own level. Cowboys and Indians was a song I did where I mixed bluegrass with my music. It was just perfect, right? And Casbah Shuffle, I did a traditional, like a Eastern scale, and mixed it with some really hip, doom tak doom tak doom. This is, the Pointer Sisters. They had a song.
Oh my God! Yeah.
Dun, 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 and that rhythm was so beautiful. I thought so. I did this Casbah Shuffle on that kind of a rhythm. So I'm always, and Bombay Boogie is a really hip song like that. So my whole point of thing is, create anything. As a musician, I also like to have fun. I mean, we all want to have fun. And at a certain point, I believe classical music was a lot of fun, but my fusion music became like a world fun.
Right, absolutely.
And so I hope you enjoy some of the samples. I don't know.
I can't wait. No, do you think we could do set 2 next week, I still have some more stuff for you. I'm just backed up against another interview, and you just absolutely blew my mind away today.
No problem. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess maybe the final question I have for you is your meditation playing music?
That's a very good question. It's my meditation.
You know why I say sedentary stillness meditation, but you want to put a conga drum in front of me, put on some Cal Jader records, I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm out.
I think people have different ways of meditating. I find meditation is an all-inclusive kind of activity where I can be fixing my car and be meditating. I can be doing. I think meditation should be a part of your philosophy.
I dig. Yeah.
Music.
I just feel like, man, I feel like I'm talking to a complete extraterrestrial spirit, man. You made my day, man.
I'm so glad. I'm happy that we got to tune into each other, and thank you for inviting me to be on your show. And I definitely I will.
Yeah, let's do. I got to get into some of the music, and then we'll do set 2 next week. But I mean, I don't know, man. It's such an honor to connect with another person who's part of this cosmic consciousness lineage that has lent itself to so much healing, man. It's keep going, man, and I'll be in touch.
Thank you so much. I look forward to getting back and doing the second set with you also.
Absolutely, man. Much love to you. Take care, man.
All right, Jeff. Thank you so much.
Cheers, brother.
Cheers.
Bye. Thank you to Ayush for hooking me up with Ashwin Batish, and we'll be back on the Jake Feinberg Show.